What is your name?
My name is Grace Amelia Petruska.
Where were you born?
I was born in Yonkers, New York.
What is your hometown?
Clarksville.
What is the name of your parents?
Rex Wilcox Tompkins and Ethel Lillian Hoffman Tompkins.
Where did you go to school?
I went to PS 25 in Yonkers for my elementary years, and I went to Gorton High School for my middle and high school years.
What did you do for a living?
Well, I've always done secretarial work. I enjoy it very much, and I had a really good time being secretary at the Clarksville Elementary School.
Do you have any children? If so, how many?
My husband and I have two children, George and Lynn.
What was your childhood like?
Well, I was a city girl, and pretty normal, I would say. What was nice about the city is things were close by, and you walked to everything. There were no school buses, so I walked at least a mile to the elementary school all those years, and then I walked up 4 big hills to get to the middle and June. Okay.
Right.
Yonkers is known for its hills.
Did you have any pets when you were younger?
Well, I always had a cat, and he always liked to sleep on the bed with me. The thing was, we were five people and Grandma living in a small apartment in the city, so you couldn't really have a lot of pets. But I really did love that cat.
What do you remember most about the 20th century?
Well, the 20th century, there are a lot of things happened, which I'm sure will happen in the 21st century too. But some of the things that stand out, of course, are the fact that I remember remembering 3 wars. That would be the end of World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. I also remember JFK being elected and then sadly assassinated as President of the United States. I mean, up to that point, we talked more about Abraham Lincoln being shot during his presidency. I remember we had dial telephones. When I was in elementary school, we used to have air raid drills because we used to have to go under our desks and hide in case a bomb was dropped. And of course, the Beatles and rock and roll, the start of rock and roll, and the Beatles being so famous coming over from England. That was a big thing. But all in all, I just remember that it was just good to grow up and learn things and get out on my own and get a job and learn how to drive. That was fun too.
How has your life changed since you were 14 or 15 years old?
Well, at 14 or 15, a young teenager, back when I was a young teenager at that age, there were more restrictions on your life because of the times. But the times were changing. So as we got older, there were things that we learned to do or could do that were very exciting. As I mentioned before, learning to drive. My first presidential vote. That was something that was very exciting. Of course, getting married, having children. I used to teach Sunday school. It was nice to teach instead of just sitting in Sunday school. After I had I quit work and to have children. Women still did that pretty much and didn't go back to work, but I had to go back to work at some point because my husband was on strike. So I went back to the same place I worked before I had children, which was with engineers. It was a really nice job. I really enjoyed it. But the difference was when I left there, there were no women engineers. When I went back to work a few years later, there were quite a few women engineers. And that was a big change that was happening throughout the whole country as far as the workforce goes. I think that.
How many siblings do you have?
I have two younger brothers, one a year younger than me, and the other one 8 years younger than me.
Do you all still live close together?
No. Like I said, I was born, so we were all born in Yonkers, but we live in 3 different states. And I've really only lived in Yonkers and here in Clarksville. Whereas my brothers have lived in a lot of different places for different times. My one brother was a minister of the church in a couple of different places for a while, and then my other brother, he was in the Air Force, and of course he had a train in one state, and then he was stationed in another state, and he's lived a couple of other places besides that.
Where were you when JFK was assassinated?
I was at work. I worked for a company called Phelps Dodge. And I was in the office there, and it came over on the radio. And we were all very upset, and it was very hard to listen to it. And it's just something if you were living during something like that, you just never forget anything like that and what your reactions were or where you were when that happened.
How old were you at the time?
Let me think now. It was before I was married, so I was in my very early 20s.